Hi, I'm Gordy Gundaker. Welcome to the Dirt Parlor podcast.
Hi, I'm Don Martin. Welcome to the Dirt Parlor. And this thing is big.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Dirt Parlor. I'm here with my co-host, Don Martin. This week we got a really special episode. We've got one of the all-time greats that'll be joining us. So before we get to that, we want to thank our sponsors, Steve Martin with Nutrient Ag Solutions, Jeff Hoker with Hoker Trucking, Bo Popejoy with Hot Rod Septic, Checker Custom Screen Printing Embroidery, Bodies by Skinny, and Reed Millard with Millard Family Chapels. This week we've got Dale McDowell joining the show, and it's a special week for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's World 100 Week. Yep. Dale's won both prestigious events at Eldora. He's won the World 100 and he's won the Dream. And the other thing is, and I'm sure Dale is probably seeing a little bit behind us, this is always a special week when you go to Eldora, you know, knowing that what Scott Bloomquist no longer with us, and Dale was a great friend of Scott's, and with what's going on and the great tribute last year, what Dale did, you know, last year will never be forgotten. The memorial that you did, Dale, last year at Eldora, I think wasn't a dry eye, you know, there. And we just appreciate, first of all, you coming on the show to join us on a very prestigious week. And, you know, we're pumped. Yeah. We appreciate you coming on here. And I think the best way to kick it off, first of all, is just like, you know, we'd love to have you and your brother on, but first of all, man, dude, you're going to be turning 60 next year. Me and you both, man. We're born in 66, so a couple of old bastards while this guy next to us, you know, is just like licking his chops already. Yeah. You know, so talk a little bit about... Go ahead, Dale.
I'm surrounded by those young guys. When I line up, Don, and I look around, and I'm surrounded by all those young guys. I'm like, what in the world am I doing?
The funniest thing is about it is like when we had Mark Richards on, you know, I mean, Mark's been out there now. It's like Mark Richards, Dale McDowell. Yeah. Yep. You know, and with the style, the biggest thing I want to know, because Gordy, you know, with Gordy being the young whippersnapper that we got here, but Gordy drives more like a veteran than a lot of people getting credit for. You know, he really does. He's like watched a lot of you, and I'm just curious, like, Dale, as the cars have evolved from the Larry Shaws and the GRTs to what we have now, you've been able to adapt to just about, I mean, you know, talk about that a little bit of how you've had to change from the tire game and the way you change now to just flat out fucking getting up on the wheel.
Well, I've actually, I have had to adapt. It is hard. You know, some of mine and Scott's last conversations were, you know, you got to drive these things different now. And he was so hard-headed because he had so much success in doing what he did, you know. But you do. I mean, as the cars evolve, the chassis evolve, the speed is made in different places now, Don, than it was years ago. I mean, now it's all on corner entrance and across the center of the corner. And if you do that, then whatever momentum carries you off the corner is so be it, you know. But you can be so much more aggressive with the air and the attitude of the cars now, because now we're entering the corner with so much more power bar angle than we did back in the day, you know, with the cars all in with their platform and all up in the air, right down on the right front and up on the left rear. So you can really be the aggression level, which does not go with our age, by the way. But, you know, it is. And I have to study it. And I can't tell you how many times that we've gone to test and I'll run, you know, 4 or 5 laps. I'll watch guys and try to mimic what they do. Whoever's going fast, I'll try to dissect their lift points and their aggression and their throttle pickup points. And I've done that in the past, and then I'll slow down and run, you know, when we've been testing, slow down and run 5 or 6 laps the way we used to. And I'll come in and I'll swear that when I slow down, that those times will be faster. And Shane will say, nope. You know, and so it's all about a feel, you know, what the feel we had back in the day versus the feel you're looking for and searching for now. So it's a huge change, and the aggression level is just unbelievable, you know, especially when the racetrack have a little traction or there's a cushion, you know, and so it is quite a bit different.
Well, and especially early, like you just mentioned, that's where the change, I feel like the biggest change is from what it was 15, 20 years ago to it is now is, you run around there wide open when it's got some grip. And if you can't run around wide open, well, you're going to be starting, in the middle of a heat race. You're not going to be on the front row. And, obviously at Eldora and the bigger places, those long races, some of what you guys used to do really pays off because you have that 100-lap feel that you've had for forever, and you're able to maneuver through the fields. I mean, you've done it, I don't know how many times now at Eldora, where you start 18th or 20th, and you drive right up through there and like Dale McDowell fashion and running the top three, no problem. But it's such a vast difference from that early stage of the night to the end of the night.
It really is. I mean, you can go hard. Up there for the Dream, I started up front and didn't really know what kind of pace to set, and to stay out front. Obviously, you want to try to keep as much track position as you can. And I went too hard early and hurt a right rear tire. And, I think there was only 2 or 3 guys that didn't change tires, in the Dream, or maybe one. I don't know, just maybe a couple. But anyway, it is. I mean, it's tire management in 100 laps, and so you got to choose when to go, when not to go. A year before last, or maybe at the Dream last year or something, I got lapped, and I got the lucky dog. I was trying to be conservative, but I started too far back, and I got lapped, and I got the lucky dog on a caution, and ended up finishing third. Drove back up through there and finished third, and so it's hard. And now with no signal, you can't have signal guys, so you don't know really what to do. You're lost out there. And the when these race fans are watching it at home on TV, and they're like, well, why don't he just go to the top, or why don't he just go to the bottom? And and when we're looking out the windshield with nothing behind us and not knowing, we're trying to use our depth perception to figure out from the cars in front of us, where we're making time, where we're not, and it is difficult. It's so difficult, but that's what makes our sport good, man. It's just difficult. It's hard. Everybody's out there grinding away, and that's what makes our sport good.
You still love it, don't you?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And to be honest with you, I couldn't have done it this long without Shane's passion, and Sarah and just everything that they've done, to keep going, because it's hard. It's hard. He still works hard. He's 8 years younger than me, so he's still got a little bit more fire in his belly and determination, and he does an awesome job. And so it's a credit to a lot of people that's kept us out there going, because we haven't run a series, so to speak, and chase points in years. And so we've had a lot of good partners that we've made, good friends with and had relationships with throughout the years. And without those guys, we wouldn't be able to, along with any other guy. All the sponsors and the support that all these race teams get, not just with ours, but that's what keeps everybody going and keeps it clicking. And, so I appreciate each and every one that's been behind us all the way through the beginning of our career, and it's just a step. All those people have been important to get us, involved and keep us going and get us involved with the people we're involved with now, to be able to go do this. I do love it. It is getting tougher. The competition, man, is just unbelievable. And when I'm not there, I'm watching it on TV, so it's a tough gig.
Well, and you and Shane have such a great dynamic. You guys obviously brothers, but you guys work so well together. You get the feedback you guys have, and Shane being able to watch your race car and see what he wants to see just from that vantage point. A lot of guys don't have that. Somebody that's able to see those things that you're talking about when you come in and say, hey, well, I didn't feel like I was down here, or felt like the nose might be up, and he might have already seen that, and he's relaying, and you guys are on the same page. But it's funny, yesterday when we talked on the phone, and a lot of people don't know it, is that you actually don't get to go to the shop very much at all, if much, and Shane is, kind of manning that deal, but I think it's because that's what he loves to do anyways, and having his hands on at all times.
He does. I mean, that's his gig, and he likes to do so much stuff. We got a good little helper, Landon Hayes, and he and Landon do it all. I mean, and Sarah keeps them in order. But and when you do go up there, Shane is in such a pattern of what he wants done, how he wants it done. If you do it, it's keeping him from something else because he's watching what you do. So
Yeah.
when I go, unless it's just something really, really he puts me over on. But I haven't been in the shop all year. I mean, we haven't raced a ton this year, but I haven't. I mean, we actually thought that we were done after Easy Go, was a longtime sponsor of ours. We had a lot of other great sponsors, but obviously it's something that just wasn't time for us to quit. Mike Reese come on board with Reese Monuments. He always helped Scott and helped Jimmy. Been really a great supporter, throughout the years. And so he came over and talked to Shane to see what we needed to keep going for a year or so. And so he stepped in there. But when he did that, Shane actually told me, he said, when Easy Go, is done, we're probably going to be done. And so I'm, trying to figure out what I want to do. Do I want to pursue, do a little TV, or do I want to, what do I want to do? So we grew up in construction. Our dad did construction stuff. And so I bought me a skid steer and I've been working for a buddy of mine with some, that's got some construction stuff. So I've been doing that during the week. And, so I haven't been to the racetrack at all. And sometimes that works better because that way when I go, he's got it his way and our communication is good. Obviously, sometimes it hurts, I think, because we don't test as much, as we probably need to. I mean, it still amazes me that our program, not me, but that our program, we can still contend with those guys, that are out there on that level. And that's a credit to Shane and Landon and what they're doing. As far as my part of it, I'll study it, and as far as the driving styles, and I miss, when I go to some places, I'll miss. And when I come in, I'm the first to say, hey, I left some speed out there. No sense in working on the car. I just missed, so that type of communication, I think, has helped us. And we're having fun. We're not chasing points. We're going racing wherever we want to. He's liable to call if we're supposed to go somewhere on a Thursday night and the weather looks bad. He'll call and he'll say, hey, we're going to call this weekend off. We'll go somewhere next weekend, So that part of it just makes it fun, and we're very blessed to be able to do that with all the partners and stuff that we have to make that possible.
I was going to ask you, when's the last time you two guys had an argument? I mean, naturally, we don't see it, Gordy and I are around all the time, but it just looks like when you look at Shane and you look at Dale, it's like it's the perfect marriage, and you don't, because I've been around you. I remember the one time when I was at the house, you remember, and your mom fixed dinner and stuff, and I even made that comment to your mom that one night. I said, these two ever argue? And she says, you have no idea. You're just not around them enough.
It's not as bad. I mean, throughout our years of doing everything together, we haven't had crossed paths too many times. Obviously, as brothers, there's been times that we have disagreements, but not very often. I mean, we're both open-minded, pretty much about what's going on. Now, there's frustrations because when we're missing something a little bit and I'm saying one thing, I feel like I need this or I feel like I need that. And he's like, well, damn it, I'm trying everything I know what to do, So there's frustrations, definitely, with us going, but we haven't, we've been so lucky. Our parents, that's how we got into racing, like Gordy, like so many racers, Bobby, all those guys get in. Our fathers raced, and so our dad raced, and and our mom was our biggest supporter, and so after they passed away, we continued on racing together. Even when we were at RCR and he was taking, Austin and Ty racing some, and I was racing for Clint a little bit, a couple years. We were right across the street from each other, so that worked out well because we were working together a lot then as well. We just went at the racetrack together, but it has been fun. Heck, how much more can you ask for? I mean, when we started my career out, which he was in high school or in school, so he would come over and I helped him make his first quarter panel, when he was working, and it all started together. So it's all going to end together. So how much more can you ask for?
Well, and that's, obviously, you two have had so much success throughout the years together. I mean, it's obvious, right? And I would say if you ask anybody in the pit area who they want to race like, it's, they want to race like you. You don't tear nothing up. You don't run over nobody. And you've done it the right way. You both have throughout your entirety of what you guys have done together. But what amazes me is how you guys can continue to show up at Eldora for these big events, and just continue to find success over and over and over again, even as these times have changed. But when I watch the way you got, watching you drive is a lot what I always modeled myself after, right? I try to watch you and Scott and Burkhofer, McCready and those guys that you guys have done it for forever, but you did it the right way. But talk about how hard it is to be successful in those 100 lappers at Eldora and at Batesville and in all of these places you guys have been able to do this at for so long, but how hard it really is to manage what you're doing and find your way to the front of those races.
Well, it is tough because when you have success, when you leave there, you take those notes and that feel and everything you did, and then when you go back, you don't want to veer off of that very much. Well, then when the track conditions are different and you can be so much more aggressive, then a lot of what you've done for that race prior to that and had success don't work. So you're searching. So our biggest I feel like if we get in those races, I feel like we can ease our way up through there no matter where we start and be competitive. Getting in them, it's tough. It's tough because those heat races, man, it's now when we line up on a restart, and I made this statement a couple of weeks ago, we were racing. I said, you have to drive on a restart or a start. You have to drive the first 3 laps like you're mad at the world and you don't care about your equipment or anybody around you. And if you don't, and you lift and you do stuff to move around to try to avoid stuff, you end up passed and backing up. So, like in 100-lap races, you can't do that. You have to kind of just bide your time and take care of your stuff. So many of those guys that I watch now, when you watched Bobby when he was young and Jonathan when he was young and the aggression that they had, and now they can still be aggressive, but they can go to cruise mode and take care of their stuff. And there's so many more, good racers out there, that can do those things. And that's just the part of the learning process, because when we go and you're trying to size your program up, you're chasing track speed, like at Eldora, we're looking at, okay, the track is this speed, so we want to migrate toward what we did here last year at this speed or whatever. So that's kind of what your notes or our notes read is basically track speed and kind of where, where the groove is at that point in time. And I think that's what, the success of those guys, when they do that, I think they're all migrating the same way. So it is tough. Because now, like I said, you have to go hard early. When there's grip, man, when there's grip, guys will drive right off from you. If you're trying to take care of your stuff and then you're lost and you're in panic mode and you have to, you start driving harder and harder and harder. And sometimes that's the fix, but most of the time in 100-lap races, that's not the fix. So it's a tough gig, but I enjoy it. I've had a lot of consistency there, but honestly, I feel like some of my not being aggressive at times or having our cars has maybe cost us not winning a couple of them, and so in my mind, I'll try to change it up at times, but it's just different when your program, is based around, you got this end goal, right? You got this end thing. Like if I can get in this race, this is what direction we're going to go. And so when you're teeter-tottering back and forth trying to get in it, that's when you'll screw up, in the seat and in setup. So, and now, you guys have it made now, because used to, Donna remember this, we went up on Thursdays and it was just a party. You unloaded up top.
Yeah.
and went through tech. And then on Friday, you got 3 hot laps, true 3 hot laps, green, white, checkered. and then you had 2 rounds of qualifying, 1 lap, green checkered, green checkered. You probably remember it when you was a kid, Gordy. And so I would leave there not having any laps. I mean, like if you didn't make the feature, you had a little bit of B main, and back then it was tough to make the top 120 because there was 240 cars there. So now the young racers can go up there, and race so much and gain some experience because there is nowhere to test, no other racetrack that I can think of that you could test to try to imitate or make it like Eldora.
Right.
I still remember the first time when I saw you at Eldora and early 90s, and you were driving for Scott. Your first time there.
Yeah, first time there.
First time there. It was the J&J Steel, because I still remember it, man, the J&J Steel. And this is when the pits, you were parked, because, naturally Scott and I were friends, and I still remember I going, hey, Scott, where are you parked at? Oh, I'm right across from Earl's house. That's when the pits, remember, were outside. You guys were actually almost in his yard.
Yes.
Remember that? And I remember that's the first time I met you. And I remember that was, and yet you were driving that car with the flames on the hood, remember? Just like his. How did that come about, dude? I mean, that is, people don't really know it, but dude, that was when Scott, when he had the J&J Steel flames on the hood that year, the Wagonall, the action car and everything else. I mean, it was like one of the most iconic cars of all time. I don't care what anybody says. And yet you're his teammate at the World 100.
Yeah. I've had a couple of good opportunities or that's helped me. That was one of them. We raced around here, and I didn't have the backing or the equipment to go race at those type races. And we were so fortunate in the Tennessee area, right here in East Tennessee area. We had so many racetracks that you didn't, you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna stay home. I'm not gonna go up there and not make the race. I'm gonna stay home and run here and try to make me some money, or win a race here or there or something. And so I wouldn't go. But I ran competitive with those guys some, right around here in East Tennessee, and so I got a Barry Wright car, and Scott was all about this when you look back at his career, but everybody was on leaf springs back then, and so Barry started building a 4-link car, and Ray Cook got one, and I got one, and Greg, I think there was one at Dixie, and so we started racing these things. Well, Scott wouldn't race anything until it was proven, and so we started racing these things and got to run him pretty good in Barry's stuff, in his cars. And then Scott switched over right prior to that, to 4-link stuff. And so that's how that all come about. He said, are you not going to Eldora? He's like, man, you'll be fine up there. And I qualified. I went out and practiced, and he could follow me. So I practiced, qualified, and there was a wreck in front of me coming off of 2. Somebody got in the wall off of 2, and I was behind them, and they come kind of back across the racetrack, and I hit with the right front, and it just ended my day, But a little bit more experience, I would have known kind of where to go or whatever. But in that situation, that's how that all came about, And another one nobody remembers is in the 90s. Billy Moyer called me, and I went to Batesville and West Plains and drove his car when he was driving the GBS car because I wasn't out there racing. So he would come over this way and race, and he'd be like, hey, if you want to come out and run one of my cars or something. And I was like, heck yes, and so that kind of opened it up, a little bit, a break for me to go. And I think I ran 7th or something. I ran 8th or 9th at the show, me in his car. He won it, or maybe ran 7th, and then I ran pretty decent, maybe a top 5, maybe at Batesville, in his car. And that just it kind of opened my eyes that I could go do it. You know what I mean? Back in those days, it was tough because you'd be like, man, you watch that stuff and you'd be like, there's no way I can go do that. And but once you go and you see that it's possible and it's a goal that's reachable, then you want to go back. And so then it takes you a while because I started going to Eldora and loaded up plenty of times, not making the shows, but it's always been a fun place. Best in the business are there. The crowd is electric there, man. It's awesome to go up there and race. So I've been proud to be a part of it all these years.
Yeah, well, and two, obviously, your relationship with Scott is second to none, right? And if most people don't know back home, your guys' shops are on in the same place, they're on their property, and I can only imagine the amount of things you're able to learn just from him and the way he drove that place, and what you guys were able to talk about prior to these events. And I don't know if you guys compared notes. I'm sure that you guys talked about a lot of different things, but obviously you two are easily top 10 in Eldora history of being successful at that racetrack, but to be able to brainstorm together over all these years, talk about how much that helped you and what you were able to learn just from being around him.
Well, it was. Our driving styles were a lot alike because of where we grew up, and driving the cars straighter. So we were automatically about tire management. He was always about tire management, and the best probably I've ever raced with at it. But really, it's funny how that, because we were competitors all those years, and we ended up putting that or talking and figuring out how that program came together was over a beer at Dingus's in Knoxville, Iowa. We walked across the street, and everybody goes over and has a couple of beers. He was over there, and he hollered at me, and he said, "Hey, come here," he said, "What are you boys doing on cars?" And at that point in time, he had some guys there that had gone and done some different stuff, and he had went through a little struggle period, with car building issues at the time with consistency in the cars and things. And so anyway, that's how it all originated. And that was in 17, I think it was in 17, maybe 16. But anyway, that's how that all happened. And we were still at RCR and at Team Dillon, and Shane went over and built a car. And really, obviously Shane was there a lot day in and day out. So he and Shane would talk through things and do stuff. But back then, his knowledge, and he had so many knowledgeable people. Randy Sweet, you put those two together, and so they were so far advanced in things that they needed to build and setup that they needed to build for tire management. And now tire management's not as big of a thing as it was back then, but his car was so balanced, back in the day, and he could feel, certain things and do stuff. And when we go test, he could make a shock click, and I don't know if it's in his head or if he could feel it, but he can adjust the shock and find 2/10. I can't do that. But he, and then he would say, I don't know if it was pure luck. No, none of us will ever know now, because he'd be like, "No, I can feel it." But anyway, he was just so good in the seat, at what he did, and obviously, it shows it. It's but he and Shane being right there together with our shop, still there. It's they communicated a lot and progressed our program a lot. And he and I talked a lot, about what we had to do with the brakes, or how we where our lift points were and what we felt. And so everything, with our driving styles the same, we could kind of we were on the same page, as far as what we were looking for.
When he was on top of his game, the biggest thing I always remember about Eldora is, like, when Scott went out to hot lap, all you guys got on top of the trucks.
Oh yeah,
it was crazy. The minute everybody looked at him in the staging area, Mark even said the same thing to me. It was like you had to watch it. Yeah. We all did. He said, I've never seen anything like it. But when you went to Eldora, when that 18 car or the 0 car, when it got out on the racetrack for hot laps, it was a spectacle. Just watching the atmosphere, it almost still gives me, watching you and Bart and Eckert, all you guys watching, just showed the respect and what we all were about to witness.
Yes.
And it was, I don't think people ever think about that much, but it's like, I don't care, JD's won it, and he's going to take this car, and they're all going to watch, but it was different. It was different when Scott went out there.
I'll tell you, JD's car, he passed me. I led a little bit at the Dream, and he passed me, and he's driving so straight and balanced, and it reminded me a lot of, of what Scott did, because he keeps that thing. I watched the other night. And he's got so much patience. He and Ricky were racing together, and he's got so much patience. It's fun to watch those guys, because you got one guy aggressive as hell, and you got another guy that's biding his time, and and just gaining his speed in different ways. And that's a lot what it was back in the day, like with Scott. He would make speed in so many different areas, and then other guys would make it in different areas. And so it was a good mix for a good show, but when he was on top of his game, you're right. But, he had, I don't know, man, he was so fortunate, because he had such good backing. He had, he had the engine packages, all the stuff that, that he had. I can remember when we were running Atomic in the 90s, and he came up there with a car that didn't even have, I think it had 2 gauges in it. They were light. There was no weight rule back then. And he had a floater rear end, no quick change, and, just a 2-speed transmission back then, in and out box, and man, he was just so, his thought process, he was thinking ahead, the air stuff. And that probably come from Ron. That probably come from his dad. His dad's amazing. His dad's amazing to be around and to talk to. But the air and stuff on, the cars that we didn't think really mattered back then. And he was on that stuff, and, so man, you got to give that guy credit on his accomplishments and, what he did. It was amazing to do it. And it was fun to race with him. I mean, all of us guys raced hard. The product then would kind of be boring on TV a little bit today, because we would race side by side and not touch, and no slide. You really couldn't slide back then. If you slid back then, the cars didn't have enough traction to.
You just keep sliding.
But like when we raced together a lot of times in those 100-lap races and stuff, it was art, like watching those guys, do it. And that's what you'd base yourself off of and try to learn and try to achieve that, So it's been a fun. I mean, I've been fortunate to be involved with it. It's been a lot of fun.
I got a good story real quick. So just thinking through all this, my first time I ever went to Eldora was in 2016. It was the year that it rained out Thursday night. We ran a day show. We ran a double show Friday, Saturday. But I qualified and hit the invert, and I started on the front row of my heat race. And I think it was Josh and Eddie Carrier started behind me, and I lead this whole thing, right? But I keep going in the corners, and I go to get on the brakes, and I'm turning left, right? Like I hit the brakes, and I'm locked out left, and I lead this thing, and Josh Richards passes me going to the white, and Eddie Carrier actually gets by me, and after the heat race, how Shane and Dale are really 2 of the guys I knew at the time, and Dale come walking down, and he said, "Why don't you have that thing on 3-wheel brakes?" And I said, "Dale, I don't have 3-wheel brakes." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "My old man tells me I'm a pussy, and it's a crutch." And Dale's like, "Are you serious?" I said, "I swear." I'm like, "Listen, he won't listen to me." I'm like, "Maybe he'll listen to you. You guys race together." And Dale walks over and goes, "Kevin, he don't have 3-wheel brakes?" He said, "No, what the fuck would he need 3-wheel brakes for? He's a pussy." And he said, "Kevin, you can get this kid fucking killed." And I'm telling you, it's the only reason to this day I probably have a switch in there now. And Dale went over and pretty much told him, and KG went in there and plugged my line off, so I had 3-wheel brakes. And then I actually didn't even I needed a 4-wheel in the feature, and I didn't have it. But it was so funny because I was like, he won't listen to me. I'm like, well, Dale's standing here asking me why the hell I'm not running him. And he went over and like bailed me out. Oh God, I'll never forget it. It was so funny to me. I'm like, he just would not listen. That I was like, everybody else has 3-wheel brakes except for me. I'm the only car in the spit area doesn't have it. And I had to get Dale to bail me out on that one.
Well, those old school days, we didn't do that. And so that's part of the change, and we struggle with, and Scott really struggled the last couple of years he was racing, because he wanted to go anywhere he could go and drive straight, he was fine. But anywhere that he could go and had to run sideways and he was like, Nah, we don't have to do that. And I'm like, oh, yes, you do. And, in today's world, you do. But it is, though, you have so much success, like your dad had so much success over the years. He didn't do, like, he's like, you don't need that. But as time changes and stuff change, you have to be open-minded, to at least try that stuff. But then when it comes along with trying it, there's a different feel too, And so when there's a different feel, and when you're not used to it, you automatically just say, "Oh, that's no good," but sometimes it's okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Dale, did you have, like, when you started racing, was there somebody that kind of was a big influence with you was it like Buck Simmons, guys like that? Who were some of the people?
I tell you, probably the most I learned, I started going racing with Ronnie Johnson.
Good one. That's a good one.
Ronnie's right here, in Chattanooga, so I can remember I would miss some races. I'd race and then go with him some to learn. And so he was running some Southern All-Star stuff back then, in the 80s, and actually built a late model car. Ronnie built some cars there for a little bit, and we got one of his cars. I had some success in his cars around here local. But I went with Ronnie a lot, and I would go to Volusia or and down in Mississippi, the Southern All-Star stuff running in Mississippi a lot back in those days, and that's when he and Purvis was running up and down the road. Jeff was out racing, so I would watch all those guys, but man, it's so different because you watch that stuff and you watch what they do, and to try to get in and learn it, and you're trying to we didn't have any data back then, we didn't have anybody driver coaches, so to speak. Your driver coaches and probably KG come up, just drive the damn thing harder. You're not driving it hard enough. You know what I mean? So when it's not doing something, and so there wasn't any car adjustment, much going on back then. It was a lot of in the seat, but yeah, probably, I was fortunate because Ronnie's dad owned Cleveland Speedway. And I told somebody the other day, so he was old school. Joe Lee, Ronnie's dad, really, really good racer back in the day. I watched him when I was a kid. But I worked at the racetrack when I was like 12 years old, and he'd pick me up in Chattanooga and we'd drive to Cleveland about 30 miles north. And he owned a transmission shop. I think Ronnie worked up there when he was a kid. But anyway, so Joe Lee owned this transmission shop, and he told me, he said, hey, I need you to pick a car up over here at this place, and I'll follow you up to the transmission shop. 12 years old, going up I-75. He drives off and leaves me. Don't think anything about it. Now, this was 80, probably 79, late 70s. But anyway, I worked up there as a kid, and then he let me start racing. You had to be 16 to get in the pits in those days. I don't even think, I think at that point in time, they didn't allow women in the pits either, I think, back then. So that's taking it back, isn't it? So anyway, he let me start racing when I was 14, and he just said, if anybody asks you, I started like in 81, so I run a couple of races there when I was 14, and turned 15 in May. And so he said, if anybody asks you, you're 16. And so you get by with that back in the day. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good racers from this area. And, there's a lot of good, like Jody Ridley and Charles Hughes, of which Charles won the World 100. But there's so many good racers, and then when we were out racing, there's still a lot. I mean, Skip and, Skip Arp and all the guys right around here. Rex Ritchie, which, quit early and, a little bit early in his career and went to work. But there was so much talent, that come from this area. So when you got with those guys, you had to step it up, to be good. And that's why, I mean, when I tell these young guys, if there's anything they can do is go out on the road and get your tail kicked. You're going to get your tail kicked, and that's just, but yet it gives you a goal or a standard to go by, and then once you keep going, then you'll just get better and better and better. And that's what it takes.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing, I mean, I know when I did the Outlaw Tour in 22 and 23, I was I felt like I was like, oh, we're ready to go do this deal. And we went to Volusia the first time, and I was like, maybe I'm fucking not ready to do this deal. This is way harder than I thought it was going to be. But you learn the pace so much faster. You figure it out, when you get out there with those guys, what you're doing wrong in a sense pretty quickly. Because it's like you either shit or get off the pot at the end of the day. And it's, you start developing those things that you're doing wrong. You're noticing it, and you're truly, the nice thing when you go race on a national tour or with the touring guys is if you got some friends, like they're willing to help at the end of the day. That's one thing about all the racers. I will say, now if you go over and wreck that guy, he's not going to help you no more. But if you keep your nose clean with him, you can usually feed off a lot of the guys that are around you, and that's what helped. I feel like helped me a bunch. Even racing even in the Midwest is. You learn how much harder you have to go all the time, and you learn when there's times to ease it back and change what you're doing. But if you don't go do those things, if you don't go out on the road, and look at like Hudson O'Neal, right? You take Hudson, he went right onto it, and it shows because he never understood. You didn't have to speed him up. He was sped up from the very beginning. Sometimes I wish that's, when I didn't race when I was going in college, I missed that 18 to 22 range where that's probably where I would have gave that give a shit would have been thrown out the window. But you learn from getting your ass kicked pretty much every night for a year or two to help you move along.
Well, and two, a lot of the race fans don't understand this because they just watch it and they just take it for granted. But when you go to these different areas, when you go over in the Carolinas and Florida, and the racetracks are sandy, and it's blowing stuff, and you have to drive completely different. You're driving with wheel spin and aggression. Even though the tracks may get slick, you're still driving with wheel spin and aggression. And then you come to a place that, in the East Tennessee area out there where you guys are, Tri-City, those places that get shiny, you can't drive them like you can, in the features. When it gets slick, you are straighter, more throttle control. And then when you go out to Iowa and you get on that black dirt, and people think that stuff's slick when they get out in that area, and it's really, really slick. So all the different, that's what makes dirt racers, in my opinion, that's what makes dirt racers so talented, because they're versatile, because they're, once you go and you figure out all those conditions, it just makes you a better racer. You got to take notes. But yeah, that way when you roll into those places, you're more prepared technique wise, because all these places take techniques. So that's what they have now. With these crew chiefs and the information that's coming, from your manufacturers. Whether it be Longhorn guys or the guys at Rocket or whatever car brand it is, when they're out there, they got that information that they'll get somebody to go race with them and kind of coach them through that. And so they progress a lot faster than they did, back in the day. But it's tough, and it's challenging. It is so challenging because you can get frustrated at sometimes, and the harder you try, sometimes you just got to back off, reset yourself and go at it again. I would do that. I would go out to places and race and just get my teeth kicked in and come home and get to running and get my confidence back up a little bit and go out again, and do that. So, it's been a lot of years, but it is, it makes you appreciate, when you go and you have success at these places, for sure.
Yeah. I was telling Gordy before we came on it, you've won 100 races or more that are over 10,000 to win. And about 25% of those races are like 20,000 plus to win. And you look at the career you've had, and I don't want to. I don't want to see you stop. Okay, I don't want to see. There's a lot of. I want to see Del McDowell for another 10 years or whatever you want to do it. When you're ready, you're ready. But I know that there's a lot of people up in those stands and a lot of people at home when they even see this. You have an unbelievable fan base, and it's because, and not only with the drivers but with the fans.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that you did about a month ago, and Gordy and I were chatting about it, is the fact. You took a lot of shit for not going to Florence, and you guys came out and you went the following week and you talked about the cost of racing. And it's been a big thing that we've talked about. We had Mark on, and he talked about it a little bit, and you've been there and you've seen it all. and knowing that what the costs are, the tires situation, and everything else, there needs to be some changes made. Because like Mark Richards said, we had local heroes, and they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Shane is so good at that, at managing, the dollar. I think he's probably got the first one he ever made somewhere. But when he breaks it down, and it's a hard balance, Don, because they're wanting to put so much of this stuff, on TV, so they're creating shows for that, but when you get to looking at the laps and what they're trying to do to create product to put on TV, and in their mind they're saying, well, we let you guys race more, but it's more laps on engines, more tires. I mean, Shane had the numbers down, how many tires we were going to go through, how many laps on the motor, what it cost to get in. And obviously, everybody, you say, well, you're racing and you're not doing this for a living, but we kind of, you got to balance it with your sponsorship dollar. And a lot of those guys are, so it's gotten more and more expensive. And I get it. It's hard. I don't know what the answer is on restructuring, the programs, to balance that out a little bit. But if the car owners, in my opinion, if the top 15 car owners sat down and put their heads together and sharpen their pencils, because that's the ones we have to have. We have to have the car owners. The drivers, us drivers can, I've owned a team, but us drivers, we can say, hey, we're the product, yada, yada, yada. We're going to do this, this, and this. But at the end of the day, we got to have car owners and promoters. Yeah. And one thing that I don't like, that's not talked about a whole lot is I love walking right over here and watching all these races on TV, right? What I don't like is there's a local track somewhere that we're not at, that race fans aren't at. And, so if you want a tree to keep bearing fruit, you can't let it die. That fruit's going to be, and once that fruit is gone, and then it's gone. And so I see it on the promoter side, because now they're living on special events, and then they're, guys are getting creative now and trying to create a social gathering with their speedways, the ones, that are struggling, to get people out and do some stuff and, and let a race and a social gathering. So whatever it may take. But the bad part, the good part is we've grown in the market share side of things, I guess, awareness, but the cost, there has to be a cost of it somewhere. And I think that's been your Saturday night racetracks, your Friday night, the roots of what we do. And so I see it like with the driving school stuff or just stuff that I do and work with these younger guys. The training grounds, if they run out of training grounds, what are they going to do? They're going to go line up with the top, series every week and it's tough on them. So the cost, the way that it's structured, it's tough. And I don't know how to fix it. I've got some ideas, but everybody's going to say, well, I know how to do this. I know how to do that. But I think if you would take, there's a group of racers you could, with team owners, I don't think the purses are structured like they should be for it to at times, for it to support. I mean, I won 100,000 to win at Bulls Gap. It paid 5,000 for fifth. And I'm like, I said, so they interview you, what's it like? I was the fortunate one to win 100,000, but we would have all been there for 30,000 to win.
Yep.
And pay back more. So then a lot of the TV people, I mean, I may get a little flack for this, but a lot of them think you got to pay that big dollar to win, and that gets the fans. And there may be something to that, but it's, and it may not be. I don't know. I haven't been a part on the promotional side with big purses like that, but I didn't. My question is why can't you advertise a total purse? There's going to be $150,000 up for grab this Saturday night, or whatever, instead of 75,000 to win or 50,000 to win or whatever. But if they could take that same money, or realistically, the car owners could go in and say, yo, advertise whatever you want. This is the purse we want to race for. that we're all going to agree on. And, and that way we're all going to benefit from this and not want to scratch our heads at the end of the year. Because these car owners at the end of the year, when they're having to dig in their pockets and get more, they're not going to continue to do that. When we run out of them, it's not very it's not very attractive for these other people to come in. You know what I mean? And so that's what we need. And then I'm on the backside, of my career, obviously, way backside. But being able to balance all that out is, I feel like, because I want to be a part of it. I want to watch it. I want to be able to go to do this stuff, and watch it grow. It's grown so much. So many good people in the sport. So much family oriented, when you got the kids and stuff, being involved. I mean, look at the kids now, that have followed footsteps of their dad and stuff and family driven. So there's so many good things, to go in it. So it's, I don't have the answer, but when these team owners start running those numbers, of what it costs to go, and I'm sure Gordy does the same thing. When you look at the cost, it's going to cost us this much to go, and yada yada yada, and so it's not really. Shane caught a little flack. He and Sarah, Sarah put that on, and but he knows the numbers. I'm really. He'll sit down and tell me about them because I don't do them because I don't own it anymore. So I kid him all the time, and I'm like, man, I'll go race. You pay me percentage. I'll go race wherever.
Yeah, where are we going? Come on. Yeah, why aren't we going here?
And right. but he does the numbers and balances the budget, and and so I get it. I understand it. And I see it. So hopefully, they'll work toward, maybe balancing all that stuff out, because all these guys, it's gone up so much, and then all the guys need to be, compensated some, not just one or two, your winner, your winner. And one of the funny story real quick before we get off here. So they did the 125,000 to win, at Eldora a couple years ago, and me and Shepard had that close finish.
Yep.
So Roger Slack was there, and hell of a promoter, did awesome things at Charlotte and awesome things at Eldora. Mm-hmm. But he come down after the race. It paid 125,000 win. They put all the money on top, right? It still paid 20 for second, which they've increased the purses on back, but it paid 20. It's $105,000 difference between first and second. And we finished that. Gordy, you'll get a kick out of this. So we finished that race, and Roger came down after the race, and he said, "See what y'all did when I put that extra money up there and we worked that? Y'all raced that hard." I was like, man, we would race that hard in a heat race.
You're damn right. Yeah.
To do with it,
Yeah.
But it's I'd like to see it somehow spread throughout, a little bit more. Obviously the winner should be compensated, more, but I feel like it needs to be spread out somehow. I don't have the answers, but I'd love to be a part of that, trying to work and help with that.
Well, and the biggest thing obviously is I think promoters look at it right is they're trying to sell it to the fans at the same time. Now the series is obviously coaxing them a little bit, going, "Hey, we definitely should pay 100,000 to win. Let's pay that." But that promoter knows if he pays 100,000 to win, he can't pay 50 for second and 30 for third. It's not feasible. But when you like you just said it, look at Sunday at the Baltus Classic. It was 2 5,000 to win shows, and they had 62 race cars, right? So they proved it right. Now I understand it's World 100 week, and you got to take every lap at Eldora you can get. But everybody rolled into that pit area knowing there was two people that were going to make a little bit of money that night, and that was it. Because the guy that finished second that night didn't make any money by the time they went there. So, when you look at the purse structures and these things that, when we had Eckert on the show earlier this year, we talked about, Rick, what do you think the perfect purse should be? And he said, well, I think 20,000 to win is more than enough. He said, but I want to see where those spots that are from 10th to 24th, they're not all the same money, right? Every spot should mean something, right? So you don't get the guys that just pull off the racetrack or whatnot, that without breaking. And if they would figure that part of it out and say, okay, hey, listen, we're willing to go to these purses and still have the crown jewels that pay the money, right? Still have those big events, that pay that 100,000 to win here and there, or the 50 here and there, but not every weekend where it's 50 to win and the guy that runs fifth gets $4 or $5 grand. You don't feel that good about it when you run fifth, when you watch the winner make that much money. It doesn't make you feel any better about how you did. But it's such a struggle to, like, I feel like we've all tried to beat this into a lot of these guys' brains, the series and all of them. And yet every year it's just another event that pops up that pays 100,000 to win and 20 for second and 10 or 9 for third. And by the time you get to seventh, it's no different than a $12,000 payout. So you're not helping anybody, because the best guys obviously always seem to find a way to win those races. So it's the old business adage, the rich get richer, and the other guys, we just keep feeding along, but we're all just dumb enough to keep showing up, mind you. But we all race just as hard. Don't get me wrong. If you go out there and you're racing for a 3,000 to win, we don't have that mental stop that says, well, this is only 3,000 or this one's we just fucking go hard. We can't help ourselves. When we put a helmet on, the brain cells and all that goes out the window. We're just racing, right? It's, if you put us in the backyard on four wheelers, we're going to do the same thing. So I think they think we would race less hard for less money. It's like, we don't know how to do that. We don't have that in us.
Oh, no, we don't. And I think, I don't know. It's just going to take, at some point, I think it's got to work that direction for this thing to, right now the product is awesome. You know what I mean? When you watch these shows, these TV shows and stuff, the product is awesome, but you got to keep it alive, and in order to keep it, going down the road, because I'll be honest with you, I've been around a lot more car owners in the past year and a half that are standing around saying, what am I doing? Shane's saying is, he says, I'm not mad enough at my money to do that. You got to be mad at your money.
That's good. I like that.
And so a lot of these car owners, are thinking that, and the promoters. The promoters have to, they've got to figure out a way. And they can. They just got to all get together at some point in time and agree on something. That may be the problem, but. Yeah. But it is, it's doable. I think it's it can be done. It just has to go through a little bit of a change, and like I said, I don't know. That's my opinion, my personal opinion of what I've done, like with the purses and stuff, but I'm not a fan, of, I drew up a little purse a couple years ago when I won the topless, and it was like 30,000 to win and something on back. Well, Swally come over there and seen it, and he said something about it because it was 50, but Don, how long have we been going to the topless? It's been 2,000 to start that race, if I'm not mistaken, forever. And I think it's still that, maybe 2,500 or something like that. But anyway, so I after the race, I won it, and Rick come over and he said, hey, Dale, we're going to pay you that purse that you drew up, that you submitted, that you think that, it's direction go. And I said, hey, if you're going to stick with it, I'll take it. If you're going to stick with
absolutely.
it, stick with it. But it is, I know it's hard. It's hard for those guys because, they're out here, working on the sponsor side of things. The promoters are running their necks out because they are, their necks run out a long ways to do these events and getting perfect weather and, because, for goodness sakes, you don't want to have a little bit of bad weather and 10 people 10 miles down the road sit home and want to watch it on TV just because the weather's a little iffy, and so that multiplies, and I don't think the race fans realize that. So therefore, what I'm saying is all these race fans, if y'all get out and support your local racetracks, I need to do a better job at it too. But if you get out and support those local racetracks, they need it, and they really do, and to keep our sport going.
Yeah.
Dale, the other thing is, we always when we do this show, we like people at the people at home listen, get to know Dale McDowell a little bit, off the racetrack a little bit. And, I'm curious, like, I want to know what kind of music you listening to, man, when you're like going up and down the road. I'm going to guess, man, you're kind of a country guy. I'm going to guess.
What are you, Gordon, before you?
I'm anything from old country, what I grew up with, classic rock. You know, I'll
Okay.
listen to classic rock. We have a station here in Chattanooga that plays a little bit of everything, 98.1. So I listen to that a lot. But I'll dig up, and Tiffany's younger, my other half, she's younger than me. And so I'll dig up some old stuff, and she's like, what? I've never heard that. Well, but you know how it is, Don. I mean, we go back, and a lot of that stuff brings it to our childhood. And man, when the coffee pot made a lot of noise, and um, so I mean, so you go back to that stuff, and you tie it. A lot of times those old songs, it ties you to a memory or something. You were somewhere or doing something, and so I'm kind of all over the board on that. Now I don't listen to any hard rock or any of that stuff. That's not my forte. But I'm pretty flexible on the rest of it.
Like Gordy, he's a big Morgan Wallen guy.
Oh yeah,
that's his boy.
Hey, I got Dale. Me and Dale had a great time that one year after Eldora. They ran the double. I think it was the Double Dreams maybe or something, and we went down to Wagon Wheel together. And I'll tell you what, we had some fun that night. We got down there, and I know it was Tiffany and Kyle Alt was with us, and the girls and everything. I think their boyfriends were with them, and I walked up to the bar, and I said, well, I'll buy the first round, and I said, hey, I need 2 buckets of beer, and she's like, okay, it'll be $20, and I was like, $20, and she's like, yeah, it's $2 a beer, and if you buy a bucket, you get the 6th one free. And I said, I think I'll take 6 buckets then. And I tell you, we had so much fun that night. We were there way too long, honestly, but I think by the end of the night, I was out dancing. I had made Tiff dance. I made the girls. I had everybody out there. By the time we had a whole dance floor full of them. Then I told Dale, I said, you're up. He said, no, I'm way too old for that shit. He said, you can dance them. I'll just hang out over here.
I was over there drinking a couple of his beers and watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I am. I love that's country music is my thing now. I don't know. That's just, it must be the mullet and the mustache. It just plays right into my tune,
Morgan Wallen is from about 30 miles north of Scotts, right up the road there at Bloomquist place. So you know how country. I mean, that Scotts is out in the country, and then you go on north of there about 30 miles, and it really gets country. So I'm pretty sure he's a country boy.
Yeah, he's got a little more in him than I do. That's for sure. But yeah.
And the other thing is, when you're not watching dirt late model racing, what other motorsports do you enjoy watching? There's got to be a surprise. We find out everybody loves Supercross.
Yeah,
I do. I watch Supercross. And then the rest. I'm not a huge college football fan, but everybody in my household is. So we'll watch. I need to get video of Tiffany watching she's a Georgia fan, and I need to get Tiffany a video of you guys and just show you how intense it is. Steve Arpin took a video of her on top of the truck at Eldora at one of the deals. He videoed,
oh, yeah.
And she is 110% in or more. And so when these football games are going on, she's standing on the couch yelling and cussing and carrying on and dead serious. But
and she don't do that when you're racing, though, huh?
Oh yes, she does.
Oh yes, she does. Oh yeah.
She said, I so wish that we could run radios and I could be on the other end of the radio. And I said, I'd throw mine out the window.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think last year it was it last year at the World? Maybe you passed Bobby, I think, and maybe got back there. Right? Okay, so that was last year. So anyway, last year for the feature, I went down. I was standing on top of JD's trailer. I think you guys were parked right next to each other, and so Sarah's sitting down at the end, and Tiff's there, but. So Sarah's completely different because she's just more sitting there, but she's a nervous wreck at all times. And so at one point I was sitting over there taking a video of both of them, and Sarah's knees are sitting there flapping like she's trying to do takeoff. And I don't even have to look back. I can hear Tiff just screaming, going, Dale, come on, Dale. She is yelling and carrying on. And oh gosh, it was, but you know what? You'd much rather than be that passionate about it than the other way around.
He is definitely passionate. When that when Tom was playing football, there was a big kid roughing him up when he's in Little League, and I turned to look the other side of the field, and I heard whistles going off, and I looked, and she was out on the field. There was flags everywhere. She was out there. That big boy was picking on her baby.
Yeah.
So I'm right. So it's never a dull moment.
Yeah, I believe it. She's like Sandra Bullock in The Blind Side. That's be about right. She didn't know what she was.
But it's really good. I mean, she's passionate and supportive. You know, full of those questions. Why didn't you just do this? Why didn't you just do that? You know, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm trying to do everything I can out there, but it is. She is dead in it. I'm telling you, she's a huge supporter and a hard worker, and so she stays after it.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna close this baby down, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the show with Gordy and I and joining the Dirt Parlor. We're pumped up. This is why we do this. Yeah. Is just like tonight, you know, having you on and letting the people see what's going on. We want to grow the sport, you know, of dirt racing. Sprint cars, late models has really been our Gordy and I's focus, and we're having a great time. I get to share this every week with this guy. I love him. He's like a brother to me.
Yeah.
There's never a dull moment. There's never a dull moment around Gordy either. We can go somewhere and come in, and there'll be just a few people standing out or something when we're walking back to the truck. There's a good chance it's going to be Gordy.
That's right. Well, hey, Shane will stay right up with me. So let's not.
That's great.
Yeah. What people don't know at home, if Shane's up, I can usually find him, and we'll have. Shane always says we'll have our final, and so that usually means one more. But then what happens is we'll have a final, and then a final, and then next thing you know, we just quit counting how many finals we're at, and then we'll just all go to bed.
And Jeep and Angie can stay up too.
Oh yeah.
Jeep, Ben Warmer, and Angie can hang, and then get up the next morning and have breakfast ready before anybody's up.
I'm telling you, they will too. They're ready to go. Jeep's just like the Energizer Bunny, man. He just goes and goes. You just can't stop him no matter what. And he's got like a million different ideas too on how to have fun. Like it's never just like, oh, we'll just hang out here at the trailer. He'd be like, hey, we're going to get up in the morning and I got a party bus and we're going this bar and that bar. And then we're going to come back. And it's like, all right, fine. I guess we're going to do that. But, oh, man, it's great. It's a lot of fun. So
a lot of great people in sports. We're very blessed. All those race fans that think that it's boring, just hang out a little while afterwards. It's not boring.
It's not boring at all. No, I'm telling you. I've always said if they ever followed us around with a camera crew to that 2, 3, 4 in the morning, we would make way more fans than we do just racing. I guarantee you how much the problem is people would be wanting to hang out in the trailers all night.
That's what Boyer years ago, Clint's so much fun when you go out. And he said, I love that part about dirt racing. He said, you go cup racing? He said, nobody talks to anybody. He said, they don't know those guys know how to have fun. He said, all these guys, and that's him. He's all about having fun. But I used to laugh because he'd be like, all right, where we going? Where are we going? What are we doing? I mean, he was ready. So.
Yeah, he's always ready for a good time.
He is ready for a good time. That's right.
Yeah. So
that's great, man. Wish you the best this week, man.
Yeah.
I'll be rooting for you.
I appreciate it, Gordy. Gordy, have a good luck. I hope you're not in my same group.
I hope not. Yeah, I don't want to be in the same group.
We won't kill each other, so we'll be all right.
Yeah, well, I promise you it'll be way better than starting next to Jeep, because every time I started next to Jeep at Eldora, he's hit me all 3 times. All 3 of them. Well, we were parked next to each other the one year, and he walked right before we got in the car, he said, good luck. I'm like, hey, man, you too. But we didn't even make it past the flag stand. His quarter panel was already in my window. I walked out, I said, Jeep, what the fuck, man? He said, never saw you.
He didn't mean to.
No, didn't mean to. Sorry about that.
No, he didn't mean to, but he is exciting. One of the races up there one year he hit, and I told him, I said, he scared me. I was behind him. He ran like 3rd, 4th, somewhere right around there. We were right around the top 5. and he hit the wall with a shower of sparks. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm like, okay, he's wrecked, and you know how momentum is so important there. So you dodge, and then all of a sudden he'd get this thing gathered up, and he'd drive back off.
Don't know where he's making speed, but somehow he's doing it.
I know it. Yes.
That's great. Well, we appreciate you, Dale. Thank you very much. And, obviously good luck this weekend. I can't wait to see you up there. And, hopefully you can put one on the mantle this weekend.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate what y'all do, and I always enjoy it. And
thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
All right. See you, Dale.
See you, Dale.